Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. It's the Sequential Artist Workshop. It's the Comics Karma podcast. I'm Tom Hart, and my co-host is
Lauren Weinstein coming to you live from New Jersey.
live from New Jersey.
It's
And
finally cold here. Or not cold, it's not 105 degrees.
oh yeah, heat wave. We had a heat wave up in
Yeah.
the Northeast. Um, and do you find that podcast time is different than real life and comics life? Do you find that is
Yes,
it hard? Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah. That transition is it manageable?
Yes, the transition is manageable, but it is like going to another world.
Oh. All right, I want to talk really quickly because this is going to be our last episode for a little while. I don't know when we'll pick up again, but presumably after the summer or something, right? I'm guessing. Um, I want to ask about what deadlines you're giving yourself on the rest of the book.
Right now, the watercolors that I have finished that the trip story, the one that I showed you, I want to be
Yeah.
finished in a week. So I'm really trying to push the final watercolors and the drawing. So it's a lot of work right now, but that's fine. I mean, and I'm adjusting to the new camp schedule, which kind of sucks, but uh,
But you have like three chapters after that watercolor
yeah,
section,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I'm
Okay.
still working on those. Like I have to be, I don't know, just as I've been doing the like labor of watercoloring, I have also been starting to outline, and I would go back to what I've already done and start to write that part too. It's like I feel like with comics, there's some nice rhythms that build up
Mhm.
where just as you're really sick of doing all the watercoloring, you're like, I just need to write. I want to be laying on my couch writing and not, just sort of in the intellectual part of this. So I'm
Ah,
excited to move back into that. And something that I've been really happy with actually is for the first time in my life working on this book, I feel like these little holes that I had are being closed up by the logic of the story so far. So
mhm.
that like it has its own kind of motor, and I don't need to worry about, like, these things will find themselves
Yeah.
if if I just keep marching along. So
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, so so do you have a deadline for those later chapters?
Well, I'm trying to have a complete working sort of copy of the book. I want to try and work on one chapter for the month of July and then the next chapter for the month of August.
Mm,
And I mean that's a lot. And then at the end of August, I have this thing at the Mass Mocha, this residency there. So at that point, and what I've seemed like I've been using these last residencies for is putting everything on the wall and having this kind of moment with a story to see it as a whole thing, especially with like new eyes and the ability to read it in front of people. So that'll be a really good deadline for that stuff as well. Um,
and but then there's still one more chapter, right?
well, I'm gonna see if I can. It's either two or three.
Okay. All right. I think I'm looking for too many specific answers when there
I
aren't any.
think
And
you are too, but I also appreciate specifics too. I was just watching a documentary on Netflix about what's her face? Uh Toni Morrison.
Uh-huh.
And she's just such a superstar. And I was like looking at the way that she worked, and she had two kids. And I don't know, I just
Mhm.
really appreciated how she did all these things. She considered writing, teaching, editing, and writing. And so she put them all into one basket. I thought that was a very interesting thing. She would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to write. And then she also thought that she would keep her door open all the time for her kids to come in. Uh,
Wow.
but her family was also there to help her with childcare. It was very
She was
Interesting.
She was also a full-time editor for a while, or was that
Exactly.
after she had left that position? Yeah. All right.
No, he was doing both at the same time. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, I grilled you on deadlines because
Yes.
guest, our Saw guest today is Michael Aschner, and Michael was here only a month ago, and we gave Michael a deadline, and we said we would check in on that. And I have a feeling there is a lot to talk about. So, Michael, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and let's talk about how that deadline went. And what was that deadline exactly? I have to look in my notes, but I'm pretty sure it was like finish the monologue story or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hi everybody.
All
I'm Michael Aschner. I'm also coming live or semi-live from New Jersey. Um, and we've had such a heat wave. My although today's nice because it's overcast. Finally, we have a break in I don't know 110-degree weather. It's felt like lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ended with a deadline, and in that moment. I was ready to start inking my comic, but I'm also doing the graphic novel intensive. So I waited until my meeting with my mentor group to kind of open it for feedback. And um, I use the feedback sensitivity scale that I learned from Carly Schuster. You know, one, you're just looking for encouragement. Five, don't hold back. So I was like, well, it's now or never that I'm gonna let feedback in. So I asked for a five. Um, and so that changed the whole timeline. Once I was willing to kind of, I hit these stretches where I'm not interested in feedback, partly because of my fear of not finishing, you know, and also my background in theater, where you would, workshop stuff and sometimes take years with the play. Yeah, so at the time, was that a month ago already that we did the
Something like
last
that.
podcast? Yeah, I thought I'll be done in a week. I took
Yeah.
in a lot of information. Um, I think I'm at an evolved stage in listening to feedback, at least from my other art practices and theater and screenwriting. I feel like I know how to take a note and I know how to distinguish responses that are about what other people want the story to be versus what my intentions are. Um, you can get mired in wanting to please people and go in directions that don't serve your intention. So I feel like I was able to get some useful, actionable information out of it. And then life's just been pulling me in a lot of different directions, which loops back into this finishing thing. But Tom, I feel like you feel like deadlines are a good motivator for most people. I don't find that deadlines work for me. I think I bring in too much baggage. And I
Yeah.
think my whole what led me to comics was this big thirst for the creative autonomy I couldn't experience when I was writing for a living. Oh, I was an animation screenwriter for about 13 years, so I always had to answer to other people who were usually giving me horrific creative direction. Um, and by the end of that experience, I forgot how to even make anything for myself anymore. It took about
Mm.
10 years to recover from my animation writing experience. So what I was looking for comics was the experience of being able to fail or succeed, on my own terms without somebody telling me what to do. And I think deadlines feel like somebody's telling me what to do. Um, so I
Yeah,
guess,
do what you want. But the as a reminder, the last time we had you on, the question I think was, why don't I finish anything? And we were trying to help you get to that point where you start finishing things, right? And and we came to it, well, at least hit this deadline for this project. But it sounds like, I mean, you sent us a long email, so I think it was
right,
pretty clear.
because
You
I,
went
I
through a lot of reckoning after missing that deadline. So I'd like to talk about what the things you learned that that have set you free from deadlines.
Well, I think so. It took me like 2 days to calm down from that podcast. Or focus on anything else. I think I walked away feeling overstimulated, and one of the issues was I don't think I framed my question correctly because
Mhm.
my struggle to finish things is that happened a lot in my earlier phase of making comics. I want to say that comics has become a serious focus in my creative practice for about 5 years. If I'm really honest, I was making comics when I was a little kid. I forgot about that. So I've kind of always been doing this really unofficially, secretly on the side. But I think what was stopping me from finishing things was this very, very heavy feeling that I wasn't good enough, that I had to earn the right to make comics, that I had to prove that I could draw. And all of this was really getting in the way. I did a post mortem on on a project that I consider one of my most frustrating failures, which I mentioned last time, this comic about Elaine May for the Saw's nonfiction anthology. And so I went back and started to look at that stuff, and what I saw was I was drawing, but then I started to trace. I started to trace photos because I really wanted to get the likeness of Elaine May. I felt it was so important to the story and what she captured in her films. Um, and then I became so charmed by the way the traced drawings looked, almost obsessively charmed, because it was like they were drawn by an artist much better than me, the artist that I wanted to be, and not the artist that I was. And I think that was a key trap that like creative quicksand that I sunk into. Um, so that was 2 years ago. And I think since then, I'm it's not that I'm more self-accepting of the way that I draw, but I'm exhausted by hating the way I draw. And I just don't have any more energy to hate the way I draw. And that has only come from drawing consistently, right? So it's almost like immersion therapy. I've just, um, does that make sense?
Like it seems like
Makes
I
total
feel like
sense.
with any creative pursuit, there's this act of giving up, which is good. It's like this is where I'm at. Like it's fine. Like this is what I can. Does that is that sort of what?
I,
I mean, I think what you were saying, but you were exhausted by hating the way you were working.
But so much energy was being sucked into, you know, I mean, I probably would have come to comics much sooner had I ever seen, had I ever liked comics that were drawn in the neighborhood of how I draw, but I never saw any, the comics that I like, Crumb or whatever I was reading in high school, heavy metal, that was in a different hemisphere of drawing ability. So there was nothing externally that said I should be doing this. I think what drew me to making comics was I don't I don't need a permission from a gatekeeper to make comics. I don't need anybody. I can just do this. I don't need a creative director. I don't need a producer. I don't need to hire actors. I don't need to update my camera equipment to make another short film because I was doing that for a while. But then I ran into this problem of giving myself permission. Okay, I'm definitely going into an ADHD spiral because I can't even remember.
Well,
What?
so I want to talk about the Elaine May comic, which
Yeah.
if I correct me anytime I'm wrong, but to summarize, it was a piece that was important to you because you really admire her and you wanted to sort of share your admiration with her. And then you got caught up in this in how they looked, the drawings looked when you traced, and that was really exciting. However, it's laborious and it's really hard to sort of uh it's hard to mimic, right? You know, you got to find you got to find a photograph for every single panel if you're going to keep going that way. Um, and so you gave up, and giving up's fine. We're Lauren and I, I'm sure, have an equal number of like projects we've stopped, but it really bothered you that you gave up, I think.
It
And
it
but
did.
then, yeah, but then after the podcast, which was only a month or so ago, or maybe earlier, I'm not sure, you completely sort of springboarded to a different way of finishing that Elaine May comic. Am I right?
Well,
Can you tell us
I
about it?
I so I start to I happen to read about this AI program that writes songs. Now, I should say I hate AI, but I'm also a deeply curious person. So, and you start with a prompt, right? So I just wrote everything about how I couldn't finish this Elaine May comic. And I asked the AI program to produce like I don't know, a rageful indie rock. I can't remember. I checked like 11 different genres for it. And then I plugged into the AI and it spewed out this song, which was so funny to me to hear this, AI singer spew all this Elaine May, can't finish my Elaine May comic. Um, and and then I was like, oh, I've got to make a music video to go with this song. So instead of working on my comic that I said I would finish when I came back to this podcast, I spent the next 3 or 4 days making a music video using
Mhm.
all the abandoned art from that unfinished comic. And then I started to laugh about it.
Uh-huh.
And it changed the experience. But I do want to say um, that comic I think was a pivotal point, and like I need to figure out a different way of working. And I think that it that project represented some magical thinking of if I have a lot of passion
Mm.
for the topic that I'm writing about, I can just pants it, I, what's that term? Pantser, when you create by the seat of your pants, where you're just making it up as you go along.
I hadn't heard that,
Um,
but okay.
It's funny. I heard that for the first time yesterday.
oh yeah,
One of those weird words that's been around but is now hitting the
Filtering up to the 50-year-olds.
yeah.
that sounds like a cosmic karma coincidence.
Yes.
Cosmic and
Well,
comic letters.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it goes with you're either a planner or a pantser, and and some people can. And I think I need to find the sweet spot between those two things. I don't think that I was
Mhm.
doing enough planning. And I had to make that mistake 10,000 times before I have to learn a lesson painfully over and over and over again before it takes. And I think the Elaine May thing was like a last straw. So now I think I would have maybe had a better chance of finishing that comic had I scripted it instead of thinking, oh, I can just take my passion for the subject matter and that will result in a good comic. It wasn't true, not for me.
Ooh, wait. I do feel like we need to celebrate the fact that in some ways you did finish the Elaine May comic because you just changed it into a song
Yeah. Uh, uh,
and you
and
figured out a way to like to take all your frustration and
yeah.
all the cool drawings and use technology that actually just sort of automatically finishes things warts and all and it creates like a new thing, and then there it is, and it's out there, and you put it out there. So you did the whole creative cycle.
Yeah.
Like
And
you were able to make, and then you also learned from the experience. You're
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm
and
not gonna work that way anymore. It's
yeah,
too.
and you went from frustration to laughter. At the end, you were laughing about this project you couldn't finish because the AI made it so funny for you. Because-
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's hard to laugh at failure, especially when you reach a certain age and you see the proportion of failure is much, much higher than
Mhm.
than success. The cumulative effect can form an unflattering narrative.
But like Lauren said, you've learned from that, and
Yes.
you even said I've come to a new way of working, and so it sounds like you're coming to a better place where there won't be so many failures if because you've accepted what new way of drawing, a new way of
Well, the other epiphany was
uh-huh.
that it was very difficult. Well, for some reason, my brain can't thumbnail. And so I think I had this anxiousness to um, overinvest in the art too soon, to start like
Mhm.
drawing the panels for real before I worked some things out, because I wanted to see what the panel would look like. I wanted to see if the panel would work, but also it was this thing of proving that to myself that I could draw, earning the right to. Um, so one of the changes, I feel like I'm speaking English like it's my third language. One of the changes since that Elaine May turning point was keeping my art rougher longer. But I couldn't do that for a long time. It was almost compulsive. Once I started drawing a panel, I couldn't stop. So maybe that is a, a neurodivergent thing.
This
Um,
I've just I have worked backwards with like, because you're talking about this idea of planning, like, and so what does planning mean to you if it doesn't mean thumbnailing? And you get that immediate gratification. Almost, I'm sure it's almost like a physical thing of like, hey, I can draw this. It's fantastic. I see it on the page. I suddenly see this thing that's in my head on the page, but it may not be exactly the end result that I want. I don't quite know the flow of the story. And that's a real problem with comics, because you're working with like the act of drawing, which if you were just making drawings, who cares? Like, maybe just don't worry about the story. This, like, but then there's this overarching story you want to tell. So you're trying to do two things at once, and it's very, very tricky. And so then the question is, how do you plan in a situation like that? And honestly, I was like so many years into my book, and the first thing I did to get my book deal was I made an outline, and then my editor had me re-outline it, and it took me 3 weeks just to write an outline, because I have the same problem with you. I have real problems with thumbnailing. If I can't see it on the page, I don't see it. I can't really see how the characters are going to be together. But I've worked for years to come up with a very convoluted system of planning, but having that outline has always been extremely helpful for me, because it's like it's something that I can literally fall back on. Like, I've probably literally fallen back on my outline, and if it's supported by the 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the last two chapters. Okay, maybe they're going to take a little bit longer, but like, they're there, they exist, and I just have to create them. So, your process may be totally different. But it's all I'm saying is it's okay. It takes a while for any cartoonist to find that rhythm. If you're somebody that can storyboard, can script, and storyboard, and thumbnail, and pencil and ink, you know, I'm so happy for you. But and I'm so jealous. But but also it's okay if you don't work like that, you know?
if if this episode is about like having to come to terms with how you create, because we all do create differently, and like we have to accept what uh what avenues are going to lead to frustration for us and what avenues are going to lead to clarity and ease and the joy of creating, then I've got a, a tiny story to tell. It's really small, but it's about outlining, and that's that like um I really like outlining. And twice now I've outlined myself into just feeling miserable. When after my memoir, which came out in 2016, um, for some stupid reason, my publisher wanted another memoir, and I was like, I don't have anything else to tell. If you didn't notice, that one was kind of particularly specific, and I don't plan on anything like that again. But did make me think, like, what if there was some sort of like fiction fact based memoir that, because I kind of liked writing about real life, and it was actually the first time I'd ever done it. So I started over the course of months, maybe writing an outline for something. And that outline, I mean, beat, 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 like that outline became 23 pages. And, and eventually I was like, it was just impossible. Nobody was going to make this book. It, I don't know what, like, and certainly not me. And because I was also starting to realize, like, I hate being told what to do. And if past me tells future me what to do, it's like maybe worse than anything. So,
Yeah.
so I got lucky around that time. Vanessa Davis said, "Hey, we're starting a new website or something." And they said, and she said, "Do you have anything that might be a good comic strip?" And I pulled out one line on page like 21. And I said, "This," and it was a guy flat on his back ranting who was dying, but he was also from the past, but he was, or no, he was also in the future, but from the past, something like that. And I said, "Yes, I do." And I just ran with that one beat on that one outline for like, well, a year, but I'm still working and I'm still just sort of unspooling it. The point is that like I had to learn the hard way that I hate outlining. But outlining is really cool. But the problem is I don't like being told what to do. And and I do need planning, but I'm still learning all those lessons the hard way. It's like, what is the balance between planning and improvisation and an initial sort of inspiration and reworking? And it's very difficult for me to find the balance that's really comfortable. It was best when I was doing daily comics for what it's worth, but
Right.
it was also a little pointless. It was like really hard to get a little bit deeper with daily comics, but sorry, what you're saying, Lauren?
No, no, daily comics. I mean, that, like, my husband has told me, like, after this book is over, never do like a graphic novel length book again. Like, your strength is really doing short things. And for many years, that's all that's why cartoonists had strips. It's because they were
Mm.
fucking pantsers. And uh, and and then, but also I don't like to be told what to do. So I was like, no, I'm totally gonna make more graphic novels. But but maybe, like, my sweet spot is like a 30 pages. Like, I can
Mm.
see what happens in 30 pages. I can wrap my arms around what that looks like. um so, and there's enough play in there, and there's all that stuff. um the point is that like, this idea of planning is very fluid. The idea of a whole graphic novel is genuinely daunting, and all you can do is, put one foot in front of the other. But the other thing is that when you have a daily deadline, it kind of takes all that away. It's like, yeah, you don't need to plan. Like, just finish. You just have to finish. All you have to do is finish.
Yeah.
Uh, So there's not really a right way of doing it.
Yeah. Michael, do you have a sweet spot? Like Lauren says her sweet spot's 30 pages. I'm still trying to find mine. It's not, but I'm getting there. Do you feel like
Well,
there's that's like
I,
there's a comfortable shape that you can get motivated to do and after which it becomes unwieldy?
I'm still figuring that out. I mean, this all
Yeah.
started 5 years ago when I tried to start a graphic novel. I mean, that's how I found the Sequential Artist Workshop. And I wasn't ready. So since then, it's been about upskilling and experimentation and trying to give myself what I think I need to circle back to that project. In fact, I've been doing a lot of autobio stuff, which at this point I'm starting to hate. I much prefer, you know, autobiographical uh, um, stories thinly disguised as fiction. Using allegory or whatever, but the underlying spark is to express something true. I I I did want to say that I feel like the wrong turns, and I've taken so many, inform the right ones, um, in terms of finding a process that works. And a somewhat recent discovery for me. So I need a script. I need to start with a script, which
Mm.
I certainly didn't understand at the time that I tried to do that Elaine May comic. How many times can I say Elaine May in one hour?
Elaine
Um,
May come.
it starts to sound like one word, Elaine May. Um, uh, and so if I can't draw and if I can't write and I can't outline, I've learned I can talk into my phone and it will transcribe, there's always something I can do to move the process along. But the big discovery is I'll script something. So the comic that I'm working on right now is 10 pages. Um, I'll start to rough it out, but I've learned some restraint, so I'm keeping it rough, at least rough for me. Um, I'm starting to shuffle things around, expand and contract, which is much easier to do when you're just dealing with rough drawings. But I've also discovered that at any point I can go back to scripting because sometimes when I'm looking at the image and the text at once, I can't separate one from the other. So I can set the art aside and then just start to look at the words. Are the words flowing? Am I building from idea to idea? So I need, and that can happen at any point that I feel like things aren't connecting. Um, I used to think that scripting was only like pre-production, and once you start to move to art, you don't need the script anymore, except as something to refer to. But now I'll go back to scripting whenever I need to, and that is my background because I started as a playwright and then a screenwriter. Um, So all these things, I mean, some of these things are recent discoveries and also exhausting all this misguided emotion. Like I also, what you just said, Tom, I relate to, feeling like you're either being pushed around by somebody else or you're pushing yourself around. And then I'm noticing there's a lot of anger and rage operating under all this you know, um, because there's some authority figure who's saying, you're doing it wrong. There's some I need to know the rules and I need to follow the rules and I need to be a good boy, and I need to behave and I need to reel it in. Um, and um, yeah, I mean, what Lauren was saying, there is this off the rack method of the traditional approach to comics, scripting, thumbnailing, roughs, pencils. There is this idea of and an order of how to do things, and then that's either going to work for you or it's not, and then you have to find your own way. So, yeah, I don't know what my ideal length is. Um,
There are so many wonderful pieces of technology that can help you. Like I find InDesign, like I have all of my pages in InDesign. So it's like there it is, there's my book. And it's very flexible. If you don't like a page in one spot, you can move it to another spot. I might write dialogue in the beginning, but I change it in a font on my computer until the very end of the whole process because I like to read things out loud and see the way the characters are interacting and then change things ever so slightly as I see other people reading them too. So you're right, like you can change the script, you know, as much as you want. Except that at some point it needs to be taken out of your hands and
Yeah.
into the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. I do
Yeah.
the same thing, Lauren. I mean, I work digitally because if I worked, I wish I could work analog, but it's just, it's easier for me in my brain. And I keep the text in a font until I'm ready to finalize it. Then I'll hand letter it. But I keep it in a font because I know I'm going to change it. One, because dialogue is like music in my head. It either it sings or it doesn't.
Hmm.
But also I'm always asking myself, is this thing that I put down in words, is it true? Is it the truthiest truth I know? Because the first thing I may put down may be kind of backing away from what I want to say, or I may not know until I put something down and then reflect on it. It's like this feedback loop, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Or sometimes you could have a character who's doing something with a gesture that your dialogue might have said, and you
Yeah.
didn't realize that until you've drawn the character and you're like, I didn't say all that stuff. Too much.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's something I learned in film editing,
Yeah.
where just a facial expression,
Yeah.
the dialogue on top of that becomes redundant, and you take it out, and it's much more powerful because this it still is visual storytelling.
If you're a bad artist like I am, you'll accidentally get the expression wrong. And so then you sort of have to this is one reason I don't like outlining is because I've gotten to the point where I can't really render the ideas I outline very well. So I'm like, he looks
Ah,
happy, but I wrote this sad. Oh shit, I'm just gonna make it a happy story, or vice versa. And so
I
I
was
have to
very worried about writing checks I can't cash. But yeah, sorry.
no,
Yeah.
no, go ahead. What do you mean?
No, no, I mean in an outline, writing something that I can't actually draw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
I,
happened when I began this graphic novel 5 years ago. I was scripting it out. I was actually writing screenplay the way I did when I was an animation writer, you know, and then it was somebody else's problem. You know, it went to China, it went to the animation studio in China. And they had to figure it out, but suddenly I had to, but I have to say something, Tom, because so I, I've been struggling, as I said at the top, with just either accepting or accepting's the wrong word, tolerating my organic visual voice
yeah.
of okay, this is how I draw. I can't
Right.
draw better than how I draw. I wish I
Right.
could just freehand draw the way I draw when I trace. That's not going to happen. And then just exhausting myself with, you know, 5 years of self-loathing. It's like I don't have the energy anymore to keep hating the way I draw. It's so much turmoil. And then somebody recently on Saw said they admired my drawing prowess, and and I wanted to say, how dare you? How dare you admire my, you
Uh,
know, do you have any idea the turmoil, the wrestling with myself, the anguish? I mean, making comics or any form of storytelling is deeply, deeply gratifying, you know, into the fibers of my soul, but it's also so tormenting, so painful, so
yeah.
anguishing. There's no, I,
It's like you're under a
it,
car tire and you've been under a car tire all day and somebody comes and says, I like your tan. You're like, I'm in agony, you know?
yeah, 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 exactly.
I
So,
made that up. I don't know.
and then I got angry just now when you self-deprecated yourself, Tom. I also
Well,
wanted to say, how dare you, Tom? I would cut off my left arm to draw like you draw.
well, you know, I'm glad you brought it back to that thing that you brought in earlier, which is you said, I wrote it down. I was so exhausted from hating how I draw. right? I totally know that feeling. And that's the thing I'm trying to avoid as much as possible. It is no longer at all rewarding for me to like fight through to get a drawing right that I planned days or months or years before. Screw it. I'd rather sort of accept this moment now, give myself some sort of like frame where improvisation is possible and make something alive on the page now and not try and force myself to manifest a drawing that's just going to make me miserable because I know how this goes. I know that I just get madder and madder and more miserable, and then I start thinking about how Craig Thompson would draw it, and I start thinking about how Chris Ware would write it, and and I just need to not be in that loop anymore. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say I'm a bad artist. It's like I can't really do most of the things my mind would like me to do. However, there is a certain vitality on the page that I understand when I see it, that I've created. And so that's the balance I'm trying to find. It's hard.
But also, I don't think, I think that when you look at other people's work, like I like artists, that render things or that have clean lines or that have shifty, weird lines. Like, there's any, if they can tell a story, I think we all know that that's all that matters, right?
Right,
Like,
right, right, right.
like if you're looking from the outside, it really doesn't matter. It might take you a second to get into their rhythm of storytelling, but if it's good, it's good. And I think,
Well,
oh,
so we all need to be okay with being wonky in our own way, I think is what you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
right?
because I think the thing that always hooks me in a story, and this is something I worry about with my own work, is the energy of the author. I want to feel
Mm,
like I'm being carried along by the
Yeah.
the author's energy in storytelling. And 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 that's why, like, actually I think animators are often some of the best cartoonists because they're always thinking to the end of the page. They're not getting stuck in that landscape that's going to take them forever because they have to draw every leaf. Like it's but there are so many ways to skin a cat. Like sometimes that landscape is really important too. So
That's really true, Lauren. For me as well, if I'm in the hands of a good storyteller, no matter how they draw, I can relax into it. Not only relax into it, but develop a patience that I don't always have. Like, okay, I don't know how all this is going to add up, but I trust the storyteller. I'm going to stay on this ride and see what happens. And
yeah.
that's a nice feeling.
And also that's like my favorite, that's my favorite thing about teaching is that I recently taught a class of English majors a 1 day workshop on cartooning, or like the 3 hour workshop. And many people had never made comics before, and they did amazing work, almost because it was wonky. They made compositional choices that were just weird, that ended up being like totally, like I was like, I want to steal that composition.
oh
Like
yeah, I know that feeling.
that guy sitting on the bed, like it's so creepy looking. I love it. I want that image that person made. And that's what is, I just think, so much fun about comics is that, like, it's that meeting of words and pictures, that it's wherever you meet the words and pictures that make you a good storyteller. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, in some ways, that takes the the pain out of it. Because it's like it doesn't really matter how quote unquote good your drawing. It's just, can you
Yeah,
tell that story?
Wait,
it's hard.
take the pain out of it? Could you say that again,
Yeah.
Lauren? There's a way to take the pain out of it? Seriously?
No, I mean, I almost think the deadline is the way to take the pain out of it. I shouldn't say that, just because you have to finish it. So, like, don't think about how good you are or not. You just have to finish it. But I know that's not right. for everyone. But I mean, I'm telling myself that just as much as I'm telling you, because Tom at the beginning of the episode was like, "So when's your book done?"
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
a whole other chapter. Wait a second. Okay, but anyway, so
What
Well,
I
but the sorry, going back to the taking the pain out of realizing that it's really not about drawing, being able to draw or able to write. It's how you connect the two. That's
yeah.
mhm.
so it really, it doesn't matter. And honestly, I have found that you can do a sequence of a sequence of pages, and they don't all have to be at the same level of drawing, whatever that is to you. Like, say you
Mhm.
have a couple photo representational trace drawings of Elaine May, and then you've got a couple sketchy ones. As long as your writing is clearly directing the viewer through the story, or your layout or your direction, whatever it is, it's fine.
As long
No,
as we keep reading.
as
Yeah.
long as we keep reading.
Yeah.
Well, just to say Elaine May one more time, the other lesson was about a year after I walked away from that comic. Um, a new bio came out, and in conjunction, I probably mentioned this last time, in
Yeah.
conjunction with that bio, um, a comic about Elaine May was published in the New York Times, and it was fine. It kept things on a high level. Um, uh, and it was drawn in a simple in a more conventional, simple comic-y style. And it didn't seem like I can't remember the artist's name, Nate somebody. I put his picture in my music video, and the lyric was something like, "He finished his Elaine May comic and I didn't." Um, uh, he didn't seem so
He wasn't that
compelled
concerned
to
with likenesses, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't. And I think, one of my all-time heroes, Mort Drucker, one of my comics gods, if not, well, definitely in the top three. He had this uncanny ability, which I feel like I'll be chasing my whole life and not even get a mile away from. um, but anyway, he finished his comic and I didn't.
And that's in the song. I remember
Yeah,
so and
so
so finished this comic.
what good is caring so much about likenesses?
Yeah.
Where does it get you, man?
You know,
What do you guys, so Lauren, you just said when you see somebody who just nails a panel and that inspires you, what's the
Mhm.
dark side of that? What do you ever get jealous in a way that shuts you down? How do you process it? Or does it all uplift you?
Hmm. I get jealous of getting mailed people's finished books right now. Like, that's literally, it doesn't matter what they look like, as if they're finished, I am jealous. But uh I I think my problem, which maybe I've never had before, is I am enjoying the process so much that, it, like, I found this paper that I love working with. I found that finally, in my 50th year, I'm actually able to draw these things that I've always wanted to draw. I'm a little worried that I'm going to overwork them, but like,
mm,
I think that, like, this work, and I don't know, the other day I scanned things in, final pages in, and I put in the font text, and I emailed them to a bunch of people, and they were like, "I think you need to hand letter this." And I'm like, "Fuck you." Oh yeah, it's gonna look fire. It's gonna look like the best hand lettered. You're right. You're right. I need to hand letter it. But so I don't like the idea of putting extra things on. But and at this point, I feel like I'm doing the best work that I've ever done, and I just have to go through to the end. And
Yeah.
so anything that I see many things that inspire me right now. Um, and I don't, but I used to beat myself up all the time about stuff. Um, I feel like I'm gonna die, and if I don't finish this book, before I die. That'd be really sad. I'm
Oh
not.
my God. Yeah.
And also I have like a lot of other things I want to do too.
Well, that was my next question. You don't just mean this book, which
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
ideally you'll finish in September or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
October.
All
That's so
right.
funny. I thought I was gonna die last night, and not make the podcast, and that kind of got in the way of sleeping peacefully. I just want to say one last thing, which is my relationship when I do finish, or as I'm approaching the finish of a project, I'm doing shorter pieces now.
Yeah.
Um, the the dynamic has changed because I just want to get to the next thing. It's not so much that there's going to be this parade waiting for me when I
Hmm.
finish this. It's that I just want to get this over with so I can get to the next thing and then the next thing so that I can get back to my graphic novel.
Yeah. You know,
Mm.
honestly, you've only been doing this for you've only been doing this for 5 years.
Not really. Seriously for five
But
years.
seriously, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it to me it seems like you're genuinely going through all of these difficulties that cartoonists just face. Like this, how do you do something long? Like there's no roadmap for it. How do I balance cartoony versus real? Like real, what is my style, quote unquote? How do I tell a story? Those are all things that, and if it ends up like that, actually taking your eye off the ball is the way that you get the thing done,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay too. Like, like it's just, uh, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the, yeah, I do feel like I used to beat myself up all the time. I used to be very jealous of how Gabrielle Bell draws. I still am, I think. I just love the way she draws. I'm like, how come I can't draw like that? And then um and and how come my life isn't like that? And then I just realized I really like making watercolors. I love watercolor. So, and I love collage, and so those are things I found that I like doing. So I redirected the process. I mean, the thing with cartooning is if you get stuck, if you hate the way you're drawing, you can take a picture of it, you can put it on your iPad, you can draw over it, you can rewrite it, you can reorder it, you can go for a walk, and then you can give yourself an hour and then you finish the comic somehow. like, that there's like, you don't have to do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Lauren, do you remember Joe Chiapetta?
Yeah, I do. The
He,
guy,
he had a great he had a great line. He said, "It's not the bomb squad. Take unnecessary risks."
yeah,
Yeah. Just
yeah.
do it.
Mm.
Just take unnecessary risks. I wish I could. I can't. I'm,
There's also that thing happens, things that happens like 6 months after you drew the thing, you look back, you can't exactly remember what you were trying to do. You just
right.
look at what it is,
Yeah.
and it's not maybe as bad as you
Right.
remembered.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, because time
Isn't
is completely different when you're actually reading a finished comic 6 months later as a reader and not as a writer. You
yeah.
experience it in a
Yeah,
completely different way. That's the other thing that's so hard about comics, is that the time gets really messed up. Like you're
yeah.
working on something that you could take hours to make something that takes a second, and then you're thinking that it takes longer for the reader, but it doesn't. And then, yeah,
Right.
it's so confusing, and then you don't really see it until 6 months later.
Yeah.
And then sometimes 6 months later, I'll look at it and it's like, oh, wait a minute, not only do I not hate it, that was pretty good. I'll
Yeah.
never be able to do that again.
No, no, that last part, no. And maybe,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Sorry, Tom.
uh, No, I was going to wrap up. I was going to wrap up by asking Michael if the copyright holders of your AI song will mind if we put it at the end here.
No, put it at the end. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be all
It's
the rights are mine. I had to
yes.
pay to share the song. So now it's completely mine. I mean, I didn't write the lyrics, but I wrote the story.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So silly.
Yeah, it was silly and it was fun. Yeah, but put it in at the end.
It's weird. Like, yeah, this whole AI thing's it's a whole nother bunch of stories that we could tell and topics we could get into. But you treating it like it's like, a sort of junk machine at a carnival and putting a quarter in and telling it your story and it spitting out a song like that, to me, that's an acceptable use. It's a really good,
Yeah,
it's a laugh
I
about it at the end. But
I rationalize it that way too, Tom.
I'm really glad
I
that Disney is suing all those companies and The Simpsons and all these and Ghibli are all suing the AI companies. At least they've got
uh
some might behind them.
yeah.
Anyway,
I don't think I put
it-
any musicians out of work because I don't usually write songs. And
well,
that's
I mean, you didn't. Again, we should just cut this out of the podcast because this is a whole
yeah,
nother
cut it
story.
out. Yeah.
But, but, but there are people who will be like, oh, I want to write a song for Grandpa's birthday or something, or I want to commission a song, and maybe you have a local songwriter in Maplewood, New Jersey, or whatever, who'd be like, yeah, I write songs for grandparents. I'll write you one right now. Well, now you don't need to. It only takes $3, and it comes out in 10 seconds from AI. Those people are going to be out of business, and that sucks. I really dislike that.
Yeah. I don't like putting anybody out of
Yeah.
business.
But I doubt
It's
you would have actually commissioned a song
no,
from a human being about your Elaine May comment.
no, I would not have.
There needs to be some sort of gatekeeper saying, "Would you have asked a normal human this?" And if the answer is no, then you can continue. But if the answer is yes, then they need to send you to a human.
I do think that so that I think one of the tricky parts for cartoonists and maybe people with ADHD, and I don't really know, but is the 3/4 mark and what derails you to get to the finish line. And there's something about AI that has this magic power to finish. Again,
Mm.
is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's finished. Um, it's a song. It wasn't meant to be a song, but it is now. And 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 I think there's something interesting about that, something worth thinking about. To see AI gives you a school paper. It gives you the finished version maybe you didn't
Mhm.
want or maybe you did want. I think that's worth contemplating. I don't
If it,
exactly I've never used it myself, but there's something that's very intriguing about that to me.
if it makes us humans value the process again, I'm all for it. If that's what you're saying in some way, like if getting to the quote finish line is so easy now
Yeah,
because AI can do it in the blink of an eye, then what is the process that only humans can do? And I'm
right,
not talking about how do we sell it. I'm just saying how do we experience it and how do we share it with each other? To me,
right.
that's of interest.
But how many science fiction stories, especially the ones we grew up with, we of a certain age, um, about technology making things too easy for us, which makes me think of the whole, it's the struggle of pushing the rock up the hill, that gives life meaning, not necessarily getting there, although getting there is nice too. Would you want would making comics be as meaningful and rewarding if there was no struggle?
No.
No, it's absolutely part of the process. I'm just thinking that I enjoy I enjoy putting a post-it down on a page when I can't figure it out and writing something over it, and then, you know, I feel like any technology or anything that can offer you some sort of deviation to
Mm.
help you see through to the end of something might be okay. Like, as long as I don't and I actually don't think I'm not I don't know if that is even cheating. Again, I've never even used AI. I'm just sort of thinking through how it could be used as a tool. And the fact that it allowed you to finish something and then reflect on something isn't a bad thing.
Change your feelings about something.
And change
You
your
were
feelings about
Well,
things.
yeah,
so unhappy, and then you became happy, and that
Yeah.
there's something to that.
well,
Like, for example,
shifted perspective.
like
Yeah.
Procreate suddenly made it so that many like when I used to teach at SVA, some kids just couldn't rule out lines. They could not rule out lines on a page. And then suddenly there was Procreate, and people had nicely ruled out lines, and suddenly they could tell stories that those kids that couldn't rule out lines before could.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a bad thing. It's good.
That's so funny. When I was studying with Josh Baer, one of the things he taught me that changed everything was stop drawing straight lines, Michael. Let the line waver, because there's energy in it. I don't know that he said all those things. He just said stop drawing the straight lines. And that's an act of self-acceptance, to let the line waver,
Yeah.
to
And
let
it's
it
not a
be
big leap.
real.
It's
Yeah.
not a big leap from there to like let the line waver, let the face look a little wonky, let the
Hmm.
landscape be a little minimal, whatever. Yeah. That's a beginning of some self-acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm going to insist that we wrap this up. And
Yes.
I'm going to say uh thank you to Michael. Thank you to Lauren. Lauren, so, and to everybody else, we're calling this the end of the season, but we'll come back in a little while and do more and check in on everybody. Lauren, you got any final thoughts?
I love doing this so much. It's it,
Yay.
it's so, I didn't have any expectations at all. But I love hearing from everybody. I love kind of trying to be present in the moment. I love hearing from Tom. I love hearing people figure out things sort of real time. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
All right. So we'll be back. And I'm going to say, and now Michael's AI Elaine May song, and I'll cut it there, and you can all listen. All right.
Burning loud, a wild story screaming in the crowd. Elaine May, my muse, my flame, but it spiraled out. It twisted and it maimed. 8 pages of magic had my mindset, but I couldn't unpack what I had in my head. Yeah, I'm obsessed, call it what you will, but when I hit that wall, it shook me still. Why, oh why didn't I finish that comic? Elaine May twisted in my psyche. Some other guy took her name, now it's tragic. He got it wrong, got the facts out of whack, but he finished his comic, and that's a fact. I'm stuck in this vortex, can't break free. Still, I'll give you a TED talk endlessly. Crushing disappointment, it left me numb like a train off track, nowhere left to run. Trying to capture her face, every line, but each stroke I made just fell out of time. Obsessed with her laugh, her eyes in flare, but I choked on the vision, gasped for air. Wasting hours drawing, erasing it all like a damn punk rock echo against the wall. Why, oh why didn't I finish that comic? Elaine May twisted in my psyche. Some other guy took her name, now it's tragic. He got it wrong, got the facts out of whack, but he finished his comic, and that's a fact. I'm stuck in this vortex, can't break free. Still, I'll give you a TED talk endlessly. Spit it out, crash it down. I'm caught up in this game, can't figure out the frame. A story lost in chaos, Elaine's laugh sounds like a rush of toss. So many nights spent in a mess, drafting and redrafting, just feeling less. A pounding fist, a raging heart. Why couldn't I finish where the madness starts? This obsession got me high, this obsession got me low. I'm a punk trapped in the purity of her glow. 3 hours talking, spinning wild. Sick of this defeat, time to reclaim my style. So here I stand, defiant and raw. This unfinished business, my messy draw. but I'll scream it loud. Let it unleash. Elaine May, my obsession, my inner beast. Never finish that comic, but I won't say die. This is my anthem, my battle cry.
Thanks for joining us. This has been a production of the Sequential Artists Workshop, or SAW. You can find us on social media at Comics Workshop and online at sawcomics.org. There you can also hear about our many courses and intensives and in-person programs. SAW is a non-profit supported by people like you. Learn how to make a tax-deductible donation at the donate page of sawcomics.org. You can join our free community of comics explorers at members.sawcomics.org. Thanks so much for being here.